let's get up to speed because Tia Carrere is celebrating a first. She is one of the stars of the new movie Easter Sunday, which is a movie about a Filipino-American family gathering together for Easter Sunday, which one of the main characters describes as the Filipino Super Bowl. But here's why I say it's a first for Tia Carrere, because after appearing in over 50 movies and 60 TV shows over 35 plus years, she is finally, for the first time, playing a character who is Filipino, like her. And it's a great joy to have her on the show to talk a little bit about the movie and a little bit about her career. And she joins me now. Hi, how are you?
Hey, party on, dude.
That freaks me out that you said it. I don't know if I can keep doing the interview. I think I got to go take a break. I think I got to go relax. So let's talk about this movie, Easter Sunday. It's out in theaters across Canada and the U.S. Take me back to the moment that you found out about it, especially like the moment you found out what it was going to mean in terms of like showing off Filipino American culture.
Well, I mean, first of all, I knew Jo Koy was in it, so I knew it was going to be a blast. And he is just such a star. Seeing his comedy and how it translates to all different ethnic backgrounds and playing arenas, I just knew it was his time to shine. So I'm like, okay, Joe's doing a movie, I'm in. And then the part of Tita Teresa, I originally auditioned for the mom role, which is really, I had played his mom on a animated show that we did. So I did the voice and it was funny, but Lydia Gaston Greenberg does such a great job playing her, like, that slightly disapproving, but very nice and polite and, reserved mom. Yeah. But you just like, oh, she just cuts you to the heart because you know that she's not happy with, that kind of mom. So she just hits it pitch perfect. So I get to play the comic foil opposite her as like the larger than life aunt, which probably fits me more.
But was there something meaningful to you about? Because I've heard you talk about this before. Like, was there something meaningful to you about it that this was going to be a pretty accurate depiction of a typical Filipino American family?
This is the first time ever that I played Filipino. I've never got to celebrate my culture, which is what I grew up in. My neighborhood was all Filipino. My dad came over from the Philippines. He met my mom in Hawaii in a Filipino dance troupe. So, Filipino. Every family get together was like a spread like you see in the movie, just a huge buffet of delectable delights. So it's surprising that in 40 years I hadn't played my own ethnicity, but there were more roles coming up for Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, and I'm an actress first and foremost, and so that's what I played. So when I heard that it was a Filipino family on the big screen, I had to be a part of this, and the fact that I knew Joe was great too. So I got to like, hey, come on, I want to be in this movie. So it was great.
Right, because you guys met. Didn't you meet when he was just starting out? Can you tell me that story?
Yeah, it's funny because I was in Las Vegas checking in to do a TV pilot with Jon Favreau, 1996. It was like Disney ABC. It's called Desert Breeze, and I played a jazz singer. Checking in at the front desk, it was a late check-in with my mom, and I said, "Oh, hi, I'm sorry, I'm here late. I hope you still have my room." Tia Carrere goes, "I know you, Tia Carrere. You're Filipino, right?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, how do you know?" He goes, "I'm Filipino also, and my mom wants me to be a nurse, and I want to be a stand-up comic." And I stood there at the desk for like 15, 20 minutes just talking to him. And I said, man, you have to do it. You're young. You owe it to yourself. If you can't imagine yourself not doing this thing, if it feeds your soul, don't do it for fame and fortune, because that's not, guaranteed. But you have to. And then afterwards, if it doesn't work out, then you become a nurse or whatever, work at Nordstrom's shoe department, which I think he also referenced. It's kind of funny that many years later, he was opening for John Lovitz, who I had done a movie with, High School High.
High School High, yeah, right.
And I did not recognize Joe because when I met him, he had full fro and like thick glasses. And when he was playing on stage with Lovitz, he was shaved bald with no glasses. And I was like, man, you're killing it with a Filipino thing. That was hilarious. He goes, I met you before behind the front desk of Alexa Park. I was like, what? That's you? Good for you. And, so we reconnected there and have been in touch ever since. But yeah, it's, you never know who you meet along the way, and just a conversation can uplift both of you, and you never know where it leads. And now he's given me a job in his big Steven Spielberg, Dan Lin Universal Picture movie on the big screen.
Yeah.
So not that you to any end, but just kindness and listening, and you never know where a path might lead. That was one of those cases.
I mean, Jo Koy, he'll do 4 or 5 nights at Madison Square Garden. Like he's about as big as a comedian can get right now. You must feel some pride.
Yeah, 11 nights sold out in Hawaii at the Blaisdell Center. 11 consecutive nights. It's never happened before.
You must feel some pride knowing that you were able to give some kids some advice.
Oh, it touches my heart. I mean, but see, that goes back to the Filipino work ethic. You're hard workers. I mean, he does a joke in his stand-up saying that, no hospital in the world could stand if all the Filipino nurses left at the same time. Because it's just, we're on it. We're just taking care of business and, putting one foot in front of the other. And that's how I grew up. My grandparents, my mother's parents came over on a ship from the Philippines to work the plantations. I come from plantation folk. And to think now, not too many generations into the future, I'm a movie star and on the big screen, and it's kind of miraculous, but how we all pulled each other up, and that's really at the heart of the movie.
I want to play a clip from the movie, but I need to set it up. As you mentioned, you played Tita Teresa, Jo's auntie, who's in a feud with her sister, Jo's mom, and I'm going to play a scene where the family is putting together the balikbayan box. Can you tell me more about what that is? What we're about to hear?
Okay, so balikbayan box is where the family in the States would get a big box and put in all these products that we think of as everyday products, or just stuff you buy at the grocery store, but are delicacies or special things to the family back in the Philippines. So it would be in Hawaii, it would be like Spam, Vienna sausage, Coffee Mate. In this case, it's like hair products, special candy, things that they wouldn't get there, or that would be so extortionately expensive they wouldn't be able to buy it there.
Let's take a listen to that scene.
Sending gifts to our family in the Philippines.
I'm sending this brand new hair dryer.
If it makes your hair look like that, I wouldn't send it.
How dare you?
How dare you?
We should put them both in the box and ship it.
I mean, you've always been a great comedic actor. How different is it when you're able to do comedy, when you're playing for laughs within a culture that that's your own culture?
It's great over the course of time that I've been able to evolve into being the funny guy. I mean, in Wayne's World, I was just deadpan for the most part, just not really reacting to Wayne when he would do these crazy things and just go, that kind of thing. So it's been fun evolving and becoming this larger than life comedian, which I was always terrified of.
You talked about this movie as being you think you called it like a tourist's suitcase of Filipino references making this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Give me one. Give me like a memory or a story of something when you were making this movie that went like, oh yeah, I recognize that.
Having the competition of who has the best food on the table. Everybody, it's a big potluck. So, oh, here's my dish. Oh, here's my dish. Oh, yeah. Oh, you make that with ground beef. Oh, I like to make it with shredded pork or whatever, And Italians do it also with their cuisine. I remember having conversations about who uses the larger lentil in their lentil soup. I mean, minutia like that. So the one-upping, or what are you going to wear to church, because it's you're walking promenade down the aisle to get to your pew, right? So, all of those things, they're all very accurate. Our shorthand and our little Taglish, which is half Tagalog and half English references, all, dropped into the conversation. It's like a big hug from my people.
You said that this role is the role that changed everything in your career. And all I'll say about it is your character and the guy she's dating are in a guitar store right now. Take a listen.
Excalibur.
Wow. 64 Fender Stratocaster in classic white with triple single coil pickups and a whammy bar.
Pre-CBS Fender corporate buyout.
I'd raise the bridge, file down the nut, and take the buzz out the low E.
God, I love this woman.
I texted my friend this morning that I was talking to you, and he wrote back and he said, I said, I'm talking to Tia Carrere today, and I'm wearing his T-shirt, and I said, I want to let you know I'm wearing your T-shirt. And he said, I'd file down the nut and take the buzz out of the low E. Like that is, it's such a reference from Wayne's World. So you've said that this role changed everything for you. How did it do that?
Well, there's that old saying of the stages in an actor's life. Who's Tia Carrere? Get me Tia Carrere. Get me a younger Tia Carrere. And who's Tia Carrere? That's sort of like the old adage. So, I mean, that was the one that put me on the map and get me Tia Carrere. So things like, Rising Sun with Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes, True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis, all of that. My own TV series, living up in Toronto for 3 years, came from that one movie. And I knew it at the time. I didn't know if it was going to be a big hit, but I knew that it was something that fit me perfectly. I kicked butt. I could do, the accent and learn the Cantonese. I actually sang in rock bands. So, and the comedy, of course, but it was the right part, meeting the right person at the right time.
I was going to ask you about that because you're right. Cassandra in the film is the leader and bass player and singer of this incredible rock band, and you sing Ballroom Blitz and you sing all these amazing songs, and that's really you singing. Could you relate to that character? Because you were in bands before that, right?
Yeah, I think that was special added value, though, because they were like, if you don't sing, it's fine. I'm like, no, I actually can rock. So I just busted out with Pat Benatar, hit me with your best shot. So they knew that they didn't have to dub my voice in, which always, it's a little dicey, trying to dub somebody's voice in, particularly singing wise, and make it believable. The thing that was hard was learning how to play the bass and singing at the same time, because I just sang. I was in different rock bands and cover bands and stuff. I performed at the Waikiki Shell with my childhood friend Daniel Ho, who subsequently I went on to win a couple Grammys with them. And we're up for another one this year for Best Global Music Performance. Music's always been in my heart. And I always say that it's my, I think I'm a better singer than I'm an actress, but life took me in a different way. And it keeps coming around with singing in Wayne's World or, any number of projects. Hopefully I want to do like a small indie movie that sort of like a Lady Sings the Blues. Somebody that's messed up in their real life, but on stage, they're amazing. Yeah. So music always comes back around. But yeah, it's always been my first love. So I knew nobody could play that part but me.
And Mike Myers and Dana Carvey, I mean, they were still pretty new to the business at that point. What did you make of them when you first met them?
I think there was like 3 or 4 of us sitting in the waiting room, and Mike Myers came out and said, "Can I talk to you for a second?" Went outside and he said, "You're my choice. Just keep doing what you're doing because you're perfect." I'm like, oh, great. That really made me feel very confident when I went in the room. So I thank him for that. I think that was the difference.
And it's, it is, you mentioned learning Cantonese for that role. I think like playing, and you alluded this to earlier when you were talking about how this is your first role playing someone from your own culture. And you talked about, playing someone from, Japan or playing someone who speaks Cantonese. Like this is something, I think, playing people from across a wide range of Asian backgrounds has been part of your life for a lot of your career, right?
Yeah, it's like the Meryl Streep of Asian people. I do all the different accents. Remember how she would do like every movie Meryl Streep came out with at the very beginning was always some different accent. No, I say that. No, I'm not worthy. I'm not Meryl Streep, but I'm just saying the way she did the accents. But yeah, I'm Filipino, Spanish, Chinese from Hawaii. So it's all in there, and I'm just grateful that the jobs keep coming up. I get to be doing what I love.
I mean, there's that scene in Easter Sunday. I mean, sort of one of the main plot points in Easter Sunday is that Jo Koy's character, he's half Filipino and he's a lawyer who's American who lives in LA, and his agent is constantly encouraging him to put on like a very stereotypical accent in order to book the role. Was that something when you saw that plot point? Is that something you could relate to? Was that something that you saw in Jo?
In the case with Jo's character on the film, it was just, let's laugh at the accent. It has no bearing on the part whatsoever, except they wanted to laugh at it. So I understand that, being turned off by that. In my case, it's always been intrinsic to the person and their ethnicity, where they're from, and the storyline, So like in the movie, I'm from the Philippines, so I would have a heavy Filipino accent. And that's probably why my dad actually, when he moved to the States, and he said, I didn't want you to have an accent. I wanted you to be able to assimilate, which I think a lot of first generation people mistakenly, I think I want my kids to not have a hard time fitting in. So I want them to speak American, or whatever it is. So unfortunately, I don't speak Tagalog fluently for that reason.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have that own experience myself, but I can imagine that must be, it can be unmooring, I guess.
Yeah, it's the homogenization of culture. And I think that's where a lot of us, we can't really go back to the Philippines and fit in completely because we don't speak Tagalog. All the cast in our film don't speak Tagalog fluently, but we've built up our currency in the marketplace as comic actors or movie stars or whatever, built up our name, stand-up comic, so that we could get in front of Hollywood and get in front of people that can then put this movie out in 3,000 screens. But unfortunately, we've lost a little bit of the culture because our parents wanted us to be able to climb up that ladder of American, structure. And that includes being able to be facile with, regular girl next door American accents. It's very hard to break the Filipino accent. I know lots of actors that are, speak Tagalog first, and then to trying to have a colloquial American accent is very difficult for some reason,
That's interesting. I want to talk a little bit about the Hawaiian parts you hear now. Just take a listen to this.
Aloha, oi, aloha, oi, ike ona ona no ho, ikalipo. One fond embrace, aho ia, until we meet again.
What did we just hear? What's happening in the scene we just heard?
The directors, Dean DeBlois and Chris Sanders, I was talking to them about being from Hawaii because I was born and raised there. And they said, how would you say goodbye to your sister in this scene? And I said, there's the most famous song written by Queen Liliuokalani when she was imprisoned in her palace because America took over her country. And she wrote the song Aloha Oi, which is a song of love and farewell. So I suggested it and they said, could you sing it for us? And they loved it. And so they created the scene of sitting on the hammock and saying goodbye that way instead of getting into a talking scene. It was my loving goodbye to my sister. It's like, oh, I'm so happy that they put it in that way because it's just so simple and pure and heartbreaking, and then the flower goes off on the wind. I just love that I was able to collaborate in Lilo and Stitch and put in that pigeon accent that you have when you grow up in Hawaii. I love
sort of the subversion of that song a little bit because I think like Aloha Oi is like become this maybe the most popular Hawaiian song of all time, especially for like, and you'll hear like visiting Americans sing it when they go to Hawaii and stuff like that. And like when I found out the real history of that song, that it was written by the Queen of Hawaii, locked in her...
Who was imprisoned, in Iolani Palace.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It makes the song so much more devastating to me too,
Yeah, it is. It's something else.
But that Lilo and Stitch movie, that is so meaningful to so many people. And that came out in 2002. So like the kids who would have watched that are now grown up. Do you have people coming up to you in airports and streets like talking to you about that movie? Because I think it meant to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, mothers that are turning their daughters onto the film. But that's the great legacy of my career being in Wayne's World. Back then, the kids that watched it, 10 times are now like, 30 years old, 38 years old, whatever it is. And then they want their kids to see it. That's what I love is like when you make a great piece of art, it's timeless. And Lilo and Stitch, every summer you go to, I don't know, Hot Topic or Spencer's, they have like the Stitch t-shirts, they have the little, plushy dolls and the sand buckets or whatever have the Lilo and Stitch characters on them because it's timeless and it's universal. Love, family, ohana, pulling together to overcome adversity. It's universal and it makes you feel good.
What do you think that movie did in terms of showcasing what Hawaii really is, like what Hawaiian culture really is?
It was not supposed to be the big movie for Disney that year. Treasure Planet was. So we were kind of left on our own on the side to creatively evolve with the project. So I introduced, the concept, hey, why don't we put a little flavor of the pidgin? Because if anybody been to Hawaii, they hear this kind of cadence of speech and all of a sudden you feel like you're there. It's much more realistic than speaking like we're speaking right now. And then, introducing the Aloha Oi in there. And I suggested, Jason Scott Lee for my boyfriend, David, which was awesome. I'm sure there's more for us in there. But, all of these things, I feel like I put the fingerprints of Hawaii on the project and helped, with that. So they also went to Hawaii and researched a great deal, exactly how things look. So it didn't look like some sort of generic tropical island. The houses were like the plantation houses on the stilts that you would see.
Yeah. I mean, influential movie. I've heard people tell me that like there wouldn't be a Frozen if it wasn't for like the sister relationship in Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
See if you can get a cut.
I'm so glad they invited me to the party. And I did the TV series and the subsequent, DVD movie. So that turned out to be a huge job at the end of the day.
While I got you, I want to talk about Canada for a second. So we're doing this interview. I'm talking to you from downtown Toronto, where Toronto is where you shot this show. Take a listen.
Hitting women.
That's my guest, Tia Carrere, as Sydney Fox in the show Relic Hunter. In the scene, you're fighting an all-women vampire cult.
Well, as I do, it was such a great time in my life, getting to live in Toronto. And then we went to Paris for 3 months. And I lived in Merchant Ivory's apartment there, James Merchant and James Ivory and Ismail Merchant. They did like, Room with a View and all this. They had this fabulous apartment. I got to live there for 3 months. So that was the first 2 years. And then I went to Sevilla and Spain and then Bristol, England. So it was a grand journey filming that show.
You enjoyed doing that show? Like you enjoyed the Relic Hunter experience, the action thing?
Yeah, it was fun. It was so much fun. Christian Anholt and I had a blast. We worked off each other so well. Great comic timing. That guy was terrific. And it was the last of the big, what do you call it? Oh, geez, Louise, I forget the name of it. But it's like co-productions, international co-productions that pulled together and created these shows that then you sold into all the individual marketplaces.
Yeah, like there was like Xena and Hercules. Yeah, and Relic Hunter. Yeah.
But because everybody put all their money together and we got to go and travel to all the different markets and do the show. It was a little corny. It was a little tongue, but we were very firmly tongue in cheek, which I think let us get away with a great deal. It was a little bit of history, a little bit of frolic, a little bit of fighting, but I was tired of fighting, 2 fights a show for 3 seasons, 66 episodes. I was kind of tired at the end of it.
You've been generous with your time. I want to play you a little bit more music. So earlier we played and talked a little bit about Aloha Oi in Lilo and Stitch, but I wanted to play more of the voice that won those Grammys you were talking about. Take a listen to this.
Ooh, what are you playing now?
Ua piha kule
Inapuali ke ole Kamaile me kamokihana Napua mai Hawaii a Kauai.
It's my guest Tia Carrere singing He Nani with Daniel Ho at the piano. What does that song mean to you? I can see you smiling as I play it for you.
It's just so beautiful. Daniel's such an amazing musician and producer. My voice never sounds better than when I'm recording with him. Hey Nani is about finding the beauty in the flowers and in the places and the faces of the people that you meet. It's for me, it's like a longing for Hawaii. Ultimately, that's where I'd like to end up again. If people go there for vacation and it's like there's a reason. You're like your biorhythms slow down, and you smell the flowers, the fragrance on the air, and you just feel more relaxed just for being there. I think Hawaii makes you a better person.
That's beautiful. Well, let me close off this way. You know, we talked about the various milestones in this conversation, and even though you still have a couple of things you want to do before you move back to Hawaii, it does seem like it seems like you've reached a place where your true self is really coming through your work. You're able to be more yourself in this role on Easter Sunday. You were talking to me a little bit about that. Does it ever sink into you, like, you know, when you get discovered in a store and then it all sort of like happens, and then Wayne's World and all this other stuff happens? Like, does it ever sink into you that it kind of happened for you?
When I do interviews like this, where it's a deep dive and I go through these milestones, it really hits me. It's weird because once you get on that treadmill, you're running and holding on for dear life, and years and decades of your life go by, and then you just go, wow, that was really 35, 38 years ago. How can that possibly be? But then, you know, you think about all these projects and you have this body of work that you can point to say, yeah, I did that. I was in that. You know, but as artists, we never rest on our laurels. So we'll never fully enjoy it, probably, because we're constantly looking for another circus family to drop into, another adventure to go on. It's in our soul, the wanderlust, you know?
That's a beautiful thing. Tia, we were looking forward to chatting with you for so long, and I'm so glad we got a chance to do it. Thanks a lot for making time for us.
Thanks for the time. Thanks, CBC, for getting the story out there.
Go see Easter Sunday. Tia Carrere's latest movie is called, as she mentions, Easter Sunday, and it's out now.